The meeting of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Garcia. Director Herndon.
Present.
Director Jackson.
Present.
Director Leonard.
Present.
Director O'Halloran.
Here.
Director Seamson. Director Zombor.
Present.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Present.
That's 6 members present.
The Chair will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Chair invites any members of the audience who wish to participate to do so and asks that those who do not wish to participate please remain silent during the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being conducted in person from Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public access and participation as possible, this meeting is also being broadcast via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience. In just a second.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta Escolar de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799. Nuevamente, 312-626-6799. E introduzca el número de reunión 608-130-5362. Nuevamente, el número de reunión es 608-130-5362. Gracias.
For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. If you wish to speak, please fill out a speaker slip and bring it to our secretary, Ms. Koala. Virtual speakers are asked to remain on the platform until you are called upon. After speaking, virtual speakers may follow the rest of the meeting using the broadcast information previously mentioned. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness and to give everyone a chance to speak, the length of time will be 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Just as a reminder, Robert's Rules of Orders dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair of the committee. Any questions or requests, including those from the public, committee members, or administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. For the safety of all and to ensure the good order of the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who engages in such harassing or intimidating words or actions will immediately be asked to cease. If such behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting may continue to listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. However, the individual will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. No one other than members of the board, designated staff, and those who have been invited to present or participate in items of business will be allowed on stage before, during, or after meetings of the board and its committees. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting the Meetings, Agendas, and Minutes page of the MPS website. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is a report with possible action on the district's elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund evaluation plan. This is an informational item. Although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Would the administration please present the item?
Yes, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. To help schools and students maintain during the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government provided funds to schools across the country through the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Grant Fund, also known as ESSER. Milwaukee Public Schools' focus on these funds was to maximize students and to make sure at the exposure was not to spread and to make sure that we were moving forward and cover learning loss as a result of the pandemic. I have with me Shelley Perkins, Director of School and Federal Programs, to provide an update on the district's ESSER goals and evaluations as we prepare for the conclusion of the ESSER funds scheduled to end on September 30th of this year. Following her presentation, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Shelley?
Chair Gogo. Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, my name is Shelley Perkins, Director of State and Federal Programs. We are excited to have the opportunity to provide you with our ESSER 3 goals, which align with the 5 ESSER funding priorities, the 5 priorities of success, and the MPS strategic plan. Under the accelerated learning priority, we focused on 2 areas, tutoring and social studies. In-school tutoring was offered to all schools for the 2022-2023 school year. There were 37 schools that opt for in-school tutoring in 22-23, which serves as our baseline. We set a goal of increasing the number of schools offering in-school tutoring by 10%. In the 2023-2024 school year, the number of schools offering in-school tutoring was 50, which is a 35% increase. Our social studies goal is to have teachers attend 75% of professional development. We are being creative in our planning to ensure teachers are being exposed to the new resources in a way that is engaging. The new social studies resources are inquiry-focused. If teachers are following the scope and sequence, then the students should be engaged in inquiry and/or discourse a minimum of 60% of the time. The goal for health and wellness centered around the expansion of our school community partnership for mental health and increasing its effectiveness. First, we are aiming to increase our referral to treatment rate from 60 to 62%. By the end of this school year, this is the percentage of cases that once referred received treatment. While a 2% increase may seem modest, our historical data of this metric indicates that an increase of this size is reasonably ambitious. Second, we are aiming to increase awareness among our parents in our SCPMH schools. This is measured through our parent survey, and our goal is to increase the percentage of parents indicating their awareness of mental health providers from 37 to 50% by the end of this school year. The facilities priority area, there is approximately $158 million in ESSER 3 projects that includes additions, renovations, major remodeling, and furniture replacement. The scopes include painting, shade updates, ceilings and lighting replacement, flooring modifications, and other improvements to the building aesthetics. Lastly, projects related to mechanical or building system deficiencies are being addressed. The goal is to have 80% of the scopes completed by the start of school and finish the remainders by September 30th, so expenditures can be completed soon after. By the end of the 2023-2024 school year, technology will replace 100% of obsolete smartboards with new interactive flat panels, including a new teacher laptop in each classroom in the district. By the start of the 2024-25 school year, Technology will replace 100% of the HP Teacher desktop with new Lenovo models to ensure Windows 11 compatibility moving forward. These upgrades to classroom instructional technology will ensure that all of our classrooms have current supported equipment for the next 5 to 10 years. Goal 1 for extracurricular engagement is to have at least 300 students attending overnight camp by August 31st, 2024. 163 attended last year. Goal 2 is to have 75% of campers report achievement on the survey at the end of the camp experience of select outcomes in the following areas: development of friendship skills, affinity for nature, and affinity for exploration. And then our final goal, goal number 3, is by September 30th, 2024, 100% of ESSER 3 athletic facility updates will be completed. Now, Dr. Carrie Scholes, the principal investigator for our ESSER evaluation, and Dr. Rachel Chamberlain, the project director, will be presenting the Year 1 findings from the evaluation of tutoring and mental health services, as well as previewing work on the development of a GIS mapping tool that displays the distribution of ESSER funding across the district. Carrie is a managing researcher, and Rachel is a technical assistant consultant at the American Institute for Research.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Carrie Scholes, American Institutes for Research. I am happy to be here on behalf of our team at AIR to talk about the early findings of our ESSER evaluation to date. I'm going to be presenting on the tutoring work so far, and then my colleague Rachel will be presenting on the mental health and GIS mapping. To begin, we can look at and remind ourselves of what the tutoring research questions were for this part of the evaluation. We have 5 research questions, and if you hit the slide one more time. The first 3 are about describing those who receive services, and those are what we're going to focus on this evening. The first is how many students participated in tutoring overall and by type of tutoring, and I'll define those in just a moment. How many tutoring sessions were delivered overall, and again by type of tutoring. How many tutoring sessions did a typical student enroll in each type of tutoring service in the 2022-23 school year? And then whether or not there were differences in participation by student characteristics or across schools. The last 2 research questions we'll present later on in our evaluation. Those are about the effects of tutoring on students' attendance as well as their overall academic outcomes. So tonight's just descriptive for the 2022-23 school year. Next slide. So I want to begin by talking about the types of tutoring before we look at the numbers on this slide. There were 3 types of tutoring overall, and school leaders were able to select which types of tutoring they wanted to offer at their school buildings. All students in the district had access to virtual tutoring. The in-school that you'll see in this slide deck refers to tutoring services that were offered by one of 5 vendors during the school day. After-school tutoring refers to tutoring that was provided by teachers or paraprofessionals after the school day or on Saturdays. So those are the types that we're going to talk about. On this slide, you'll see that almost 3,500 students participated in tutoring during the 2022-23 school year. They were almost equally split between those 2 in-school, the in-school option or the after-school option. And many less participated in virtual tutoring. For those of you who are doing quick math to check us, you'll see that if you add them all up, there's actually more than 3,456 on the slide. That's because approximately 90, maybe 91 students actually participated in more than one of these options. happy to provide more information about that. 3 students participated in both in-school and virtual, and then 88 students participated in both in-school and after-school tutoring. You can go, thanks. So looking at the breakdown of the tutoring sessions delivered, there were over 39,000 tutoring sessions delivered during the 22-23 school year. On average, the students that opted into these tutoring sessions participated in 25. We have in-school having the most number of sessions of 37,545, virtual nearly 1,500. And for after-school, we don't have the counts of those, but have been working with the district on data collection, so we do have them for the 23-24 school year. So when looking at the student characteristics of those who opted in to participate in tutoring, we looked at the percentages of students relative to the district as a whole. So if we look on the left side of this slide, there were higher percentages of participating students who identified as Black or identified as economically disadvantaged and were in grades 9 through 12. There were lower percentages of students who opted into tutoring who identified as Hispanic, received special ed services, identified as English language learners, or were in pre-K through 8th grade. I want to summarize here that, again, looking at the total number of students receiving services, most participated in school or after school. Fewer participated in the virtual tutoring option, even though that was available to all students across the district. Those who participated, on average, participated in 25 sessions across the school year. And relative to the district population, more students in tutoring were Black, economically disadvantaged, or in grades 9 through 12. On average, 12% of students participated at schools that offered tutoring services. The range varied tremendously, but that again is the average. So looking forward, during the 23-24 school year, we'll describe similar types of data, looking at those first 3 research questions, but then we'll also do a deeper dive in looking at the effects on tutoring in terms of student attendance and their overall outcomes.
Chair Gulka-Gandhi, members of the board. Rachel Chamberlain, American Institutes for Research. Next, I'd like to share findings from our evaluation on contracted mental health services and participation in year 1. And again, this is for school year 2022 to 23. Similarly to looking at the tutoring evaluation questions, we focused on the first 3 of 4 in our scope of work. So if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. And those 3 were across the district, how many students participated in school-based therapy and teletherapy sessions in 2022 to 23? To what extent do students enroll in mental health services after they are referred? And then to what extent does a student's mental health improve or not improve based on their participation in mental health services? The 4th question, which is on enrolling in mental health services and its relationship to students' unexcused attendance rates, will be explored in the next report, and then we'll report back on that in a future time. So before I dive into the findings, I wanted to share some definitions that you'll see on the slides and that are described in further detail in the report. The first is the fact that we did an evaluation on contracted mental health services. So this is not an evaluation of all mental health services that are provided in MPS, just those that are contracted mental health services from a community-based provider. A community-based provider is a local community organization that provides mental health services and has a staff of mental health clinicians. Contracted mental health services are those services described in the findings that are from contracted mental health services. Those include school-based mental health services from community-based providers. They work within school buildings, but there was also a teletherapy option where community-based providers conducted virtual therapy sessions. And lastly, a school-based mental health clinician is someone who works for a community-based provider who provides services in an MPS school building for students. Next, we have some definitions on how students go through the process of receiving these services. So first is they could receive a referral for school-based mental health services. And this is when a student is recommended to be seen by a school-based mental health clinician for a consultation. So they receive the consultation first before they may receive a therapy appointment. Referrals can be initiated by school staff or parents or even the students themselves. After referral, students receive a consultation with a school-based clinician to determine what kind of services or supports would be needed for the student. And this could include therapy, or it could include other services in the district or outside the district. And then lastly, when we say a student received therapy or school-based mental health services, we're assuming that they received at least one therapy sessions in the findings that you'll see. This pie chart represents a visual representation of how many students participated in school-based mental health services versus the teletherapy services that were provided. And so you'll notice that a vast majority of students participated in those school-based mental health services, 98%, while 2% participated in teletherapy services. This bar chart represents who was referred, who received consultation, and then who received at least one therapy session. The numbers in the bars are the numbers of students who received those three things. You'll notice a drop-off from referral to consultation, but for the most part, most students who received a consultation did receive at least one therapy session. This bar chart is the same information, just presented with percentages instead of numbers. And you'll notice again that of the students who were referred, 67% received a consultation after, and 62% received at least one therapy session. Overall, we looked at participation across the district in these school-based mental health services and student characteristics. Here are some of the findings. Higher percentages comparing those who were participating in the services to the district as a whole. Higher percentages of participating students identified as Black, received special education services, or were identified as economically disadvantaged. Lower percentages compared to the district as a whole of participating students identified as Hispanic or other races or ethnicities, were identified as English language learners. Next, I'll share some findings from some of the measures that are used by school-based mental health and teletherapy clinicians. And again, this is in school year 2022 to 23. The first is the Strengths and Difficulties Questionnaire, and I'll refer to this as SDQ moving forward. This is a behavioral questionnaire that's completed by either the student, a parent, or a teacher about a student's behavior. The scores can range between 0 to 40, and we're looking for a decrease in score, which indicates a reduction in the difficulties experienced by the student. Then we have the Treatment Outcome Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, or TOP8 measure. And this is a measure of symptom clusters of PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. The scores can range from 0 to 32 on this measure, and again with a decrease in score indicating a reduction in PTSD symptoms. What I'll share with you, which is on this graph here, on this slide, are some findings from the SDQ measure and some tests that we did with that and some analysis. We will not be showing the top 8 today because those were given to students who received teletherapy, and due to the very small amount of students, we simply cannot test significance. So when we look at the items here, there's a lot on this slide, so I'm going to break it down. You'll notice that there are student SDQ scores, parent SDQ scores, and teacher SDQ scores. And those are the means or the averages across the district. And then we have 3 bars for each of those categories. The first on the top of every category is before students received school-based mental health services. The middle bar is in the midst of, during school-based mental health services, and then the last bar is after they received school-based mental health services. And a reminder, we are looking for a decrease in scores, indicating a reduction in difficulties. So you'll notice across the board when students, and then their parents and teachers also reporting on those students, were filling out this questionnaire before, during, and after those services were given. Overall, we see a reduction in students' difficulty as reported by this measure. The little blue arrows indicate a statistically significant reduction. So overall, just to kind of recap the high-level findings of the mental health evaluation, more students participated in school-based mental health services relative to teletherapy. And then relative to the district population, more students participated in mental health services who identified as Black, who were identified as economically disadvantaged, and/or were receiving special education services. Students who participated in a school-based mental health service showed a statistically significant reduction in difficulties that were experienced by the student at the end of the school year on the SDQ student survey and the teacher survey. So next steps with this evaluation of the mental health services will be a final report at the end of this calendar year discussing the outcomes of attendance as related to participation in these services. Lastly, what we're sharing with you today is the second iteration of a GIS mapping dashboard. You'll recall that when we presented the first iteration of this dashboard back in January, this was on the participation of students in tutoring and mental health. This iteration of the dashboard is showing the distribution of ESSER funding in schools and school districts. So we have one main research question for the second iteration of this GIS dashboard, and that would be how many investments did schools and regions receive for these ESSER funded investments in the school year 2022 to 23. And we have 5 main investments that we're mapping with this tool: tutoring, health and wellness, extracurriculars, technology, and facilities. The next few slides, I'll show you some of the features of this tool. First, the user will have the option to interact with the map using options on the left panel. And overall, this dashboard, as you navigate through, shows ESSER funding for all of those investments. And you can use the portions on the left-hand side to navigate through this map. And then if you wouldn't mind going one more. Thanks. Oh, sorry, you can go back. So in the map, lighter colors indicate lower funding amounts and darker colors indicate higher funding amounts. And that's in the red box down below. So lighter green, lighter purple, indicating lower funding amounts, and darker colors indicating the higher funding amounts. Sorry. And then the overall district-wide percentages of funding by category can be explored in the pie chart to the right of the map, and that's also in the red box. How the data is displayed can be changed using the first 2 options in the left panel. So what's nice about this tool is the ability to look across different parts of the district. It's pretty interactive. When you click on Map View, this toggle will display school level data, school board level data, or both. And then you can also filter schools by region. So this selection will filter the schools displayed and the funding chart by your region of interest. The type of funding data can also be changed using the third option in the left panel in the red box. And this will default automatically to the overall sum of funding and then patterns within a given funding type. So if you wanted to zoom in on tutoring or a different investment, you can do so using that feature on the left-hand side. Lastly, you can filter this data for the amount of students of color within a school level data, school board district level data, and then the funding pie chart can also be filtered by this percentage. The next steps for the GIS map will be to look at the impact of tutoring and mental health in some of those measures that we described earlier, and you can see those outcomes when you look at the map tool. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, I would like to take public testimony first. So is there any public testimony on this item?
We have one speaker slip for this item.
Great. If that speaker knows who they are, they can start making their way to the podium. Otherwise, I will call on Vince Tony. Oh, hold on one second, hold on one second. Go ahead, and if you could spell your last name for the record, please.
Last name is Tony, T as in Tom, O-N-E-Y. I think this presentation is weak. It doesn't have enough data in there for anybody to make a comprehensive decision about what's going on in the school system. I visited Keith Avenue Street School, and for the tutoring part of it, they were forcing students out of classrooms to participate in the tutoring. So are these numbers skewed when you're forcing a kid out of class? I don't think the data, it represents what's going on in our school system. As far as the ESSER funding is concerned, how many new schools support positions were created using ESSER funds? What were the positions? Were the positions salary or hourly? What was the pay scale? Did any of those positions help improve the reading at the high school level, i.e. North Division? Where's the data to support the ESSER funds were allocated? I think you guys have it up there. I think you guys should have had something here for the people that are here so we can see exactly what the numbers are. Which schools received ESSER funding, line item by line item, and how many dollars were allocated to each school? How was ESSER out of school time utilized? What programs were funded, and who or what agencies were contracted? As far as the mental health part of it is concerned, we don't have any data on which organizations that you used for these mental health services. At least I didn't see them. I don't know where they are. That's some of the data that should have been presented here so we can have an idea of what's going on. And I think, to my knowledge, is the ESSER funding is ending in September. So is the referendum, the $252 million, going to be supporting these positions? Those are questions that I think need to be asked before this body of people, the directors and the superintendent, consider approving this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any other testimony on this item?
I have no additional speaker slips on this item, and there is no one on the virtual platform for this item.
Okay, great. We will go to committee members. Would committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Garcia.
Thank you for this information. I have two questions in regards to tutoring and then two in regards to the mental health services. The first one for tutoring, can you just share a little bit more about the selection criteria for students that were participating in the tutoring program? Just say a little bit more about that.
Administration.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, have Dr. John Hill coming, and he's going to address that. Dr. Hill.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Garcia, members of the committee, John Hill, Director of College Career Readiness. In terms of which students are selected for tutoring, that is a school-based decision, and all students, in order to receive tutoring services, have to have parental permission to do so. So students aren't just assigned tutoring or pulled into tutoring. Parents give permission for their child to receive in-school tutoring services.
Director Garcia, any follow-up?
Thank you. No, that was just a question in regards to, like, were we targeting specific students who are maybe below a threshold? Just a little bit more information around that.
Administration.
Director Gokul Gandhi, or Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Garcia, members of the committee. Again, that would be a school-level decision. So most likely, schools are selecting students, are inviting students to tutoring that may be struggling in that particular academic area. I would highly doubt any school would have advanced students receiving tutoring services.
Thank you.
Director Garcia.
Yes, and then another one was in regards to the tutoring. What languages were offered for the tutoring? Because I know that when we're looking at specifically the participation of English language learners, younger students, specifically Latino students, it just says that we are in the lower percentages of participation. So I'm just wondering, what did that look like for us to include a broad range of needs linguistically.
Administration?
Chair Gogo Gandhi, members of the committee, Natalie Anderson, Manager of Extended Learning Opportunities. Tutoring was provided in English and in Spanish as if schools selected to have another language provided.
Director Garcia?
Awesome. I think in the reporting, as it continues forward, maybe just having a little bit more details as to, the breakoff and participation for those particular demographics would be just helpful for us, as we continue to look at, what strategies do we want to carry forth beyond, this specific period.
Administration?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Garcia, members of the committee, again, John Hill, Director of College Career Readiness. Yes, it's important to remember that tonight's report is just based on the first year of data. So tutoring will end this Friday, May 31st, and then AIR will be going through and being able to provide us a much more detailed and in-depth report.
Perfect.
Director
Sorry,
Garcia, go ahead.
Just one more question then. In regards to now going into the mental health portion of the report, I know that a majority of the progress that we're seeing were specifically to the SDQ and the top 8 scales. I'm just wondering if you can say a little bit more as to why those specific scales were selected as our North Star for this specific measure.
Administration?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Garcia, members of the committee, Travis Pinter, Senior Director of Specialized Services. So the STQ is specific to SCPMH, or our School Community Partnership for Mental Health. That's the one we've been using for some time. Just a reminder to the board, that program was expanded through ESSER by about 50% to 38 schools. So it was a program we'd already had in place for almost 20 years, and so that's been a trusted measure we have used, and we wanted to measure using that. The other one for teletherapy, that is a program that was new as of ESSER, and so we're still kind of experimenting with what works best there, but we looked at that particular measure because we found it to be reliable and relatively short way for our staff to be able to assess pre and post, and so that was used specifically, especially because we were in part trying to address students that may have dealt with an acute or chronic traumatic event, and then also just to point out as we talk about both of those, all of the funding that was provided through ESSER for those programs, we have been able to find with grant funding. So we're maintaining, at the very least, maintaining the same levels post-ESSER, which we're very happy about. So just want to point that out for both of these programs.
Director
Thank you.
Garcia?
And I just want to point out the continuity portion of things. So it's good to hear that it's a scale that we've been using for, decades, meaning that allows for us to have more of a longitudinal perspective on what's happening and compare it to, specifically what that means post-COVID, which I think is going to be an interesting way to look at this data. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
Do any other committee members wish to ask questions? Yep, Director Leonard.
So you answered my most important question with regards to the cutoff of funds coming. So we've got that covered. Are those all categorical funds? Meaning they're purely grant funds that they're going to last for 3 years?
Administration?
Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Leonard, members of the committee, those funds are grant-based funds. They are, we have them secured for, in one case, I think 4 more years, and for 1, 2. But we've been pretty successful at finding ways of kind of stringing those particular grants together. And that's not uncommon for us. And in fact, in the case of SCPMH, we've supplemented that for many years with grant funds. We have one of the ones you've heard about, our RISE grant, which is through AWARE, is the one for that. Some funding through DPI also supplements that. So all of those funds help supplement portions of what our clinical therapy providers are able to do. So that, yes, they are limited in term, but we are always looking to keep extending.
Director Leonard.
And then just, I really want to go off of Mr. Tony's question. I would like to know the schools and the percentage of dollars per school as an actual official request from the board. So we have a very clear idea of each school, how much they're getting, and the service levels they receive.
Administration?
Madam Chair, members of the board, we will be happy to provide you that prior to the full board.
Any
Okay,
other
thank you.
questions from, I'm
Good.
sorry, Director Leonard, do you have any more follow-up?
We're good. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Director Zumwalt?
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. Would the administration or the representatives from AIR be able to share what 5 tutoring vendors are included?
Administration?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I have Anderson who's going to be providing those names. Ms. Anderson?
Good evening, Chair Gokul Gandhi, Director Zomborg, Natalie Anderson, Manager of Extended Learning Opportunity. Those vendors were University Tutors, Forward Scholars, Hey Tutor, One-on-One Learning, and Student Nest. Proximity Learning provided our virtual tutoring.
Director Zumwalt?
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. What was the last one?
Proximity Learning, they provided our virtual tutoring.
The one before that. Sorry.
Administration?
Student Nest.
Okay.
Director Zumwalt, any follow-up?
That's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. I think I saw President Herndon with the hand up.
Yes, I too wanted to go back to the reading so that we could perhaps answer the questions that the speaker requested. I'd like to say first that many of us have observed the reading tutoring and found it to be very effective in spite of the pull-out, push-in type method is what it sounded like. So I'd like you to address some of the information that was requested by this gentleman in addition to directing him how to find the school detail on the services that they purchased, because it is in the budget in detail.
Administration?
Madam Chair and members of the board, are you requesting that tonight, or are you requesting it
Just
before
a
the full
slight
board?
overview, not the detail, but
Go ahead,
overview.
Dr. Hill.
Administration?
Director Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Director Herndon, Natalie Anderson, Manager of Extended Learning. Schools had the option of getting one-on-one tutoring or group tutoring from each vendor, so they had the opportunity to select which version would work better for their students. In the elementary schools, we focused on reading. In the higher levels, they focused on math, but had the opportunity to diversify in that area.
President Herndon?
Thank you, administration. I'd like you to explain where in the 3-inch binder, how you find the school detail.
Administration? And perhaps you can explain how to navigate the website as well, since that's probably where people are accessing it.
Madam Chair and members of the board, one of the individuals from the financial team is getting ready to come out to do just that.
Okay, so while we wait.
So can we take another question, and then we'll come back to that?
Absolutely. Are there any other questions from committee members? Director Simpson, thank you.
I'll ask one, just in regards to the tutoring program. You know, we were talking about continuity of services. Are we foreseeing that we will be able to continue those tutoring services for those schools that are already participating moving forward?
Administration? I think maybe Dr. Prosley was attending to the previous question that was asked, so we will just give him a second.
Madam Chair
Go
and members
ahead.
of the board, yes, there are significant funds set aside for tutoring for the upcoming school year.
Okay, and so I think we're waiting for Ms. Perkins to come to the table. I see Mr. Sinram coming out as well, so I anticipate we'll have an answer to your question in short order. Yes, Ms. Perkins, thank you.
Sorry, Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Shelley Perkins, Director, State and Federal Programs. Just to kind of give an overview of what schools receive. So all of the schools, also I just want to address in general, received $100,000 that they had to work with their school community and parents to decide how they wanted to use that funding. They also received funding towards for camps and for extracurricular engagement activities. They receive funding for mental health services as well as tutoring. So if you look in the ESSER booklet, it may not show it broken down, and I'm not sure if you were asking about how it is detailed in the budget book, but if you look under each priority area, line by line, it lists, like under mental health services, when you look under health and wellness, there is a specific area where it lists mental health. And if we look at accelerated learning, for example, that's the first priority area that's listed on page 3 of the ESSER detail book, and it's broken off if you go to the budget part of that, which would be on page 19 is where it would start, and it has that broken up by priority areas. So priority 1, it will show the different areas that provided direct services to students, which tutoring would fall under there. It also talks about providing high-quality materials. So all schools benefited from all of these different activities that are listed in this book, and then they also received the $100,000 that they could use the way that their school community had decided on.
President Herndon?
I was speaking more of the complete budget. There's actually a whole section in there by school that explains the expenditures in more detail. So I would say in the future, if someone wanted more information or walkthrough, they could probably request that from their board director. And I think most of us would be more than willing to come out and walk you through that process.
Yep, and if you also, I'm assuming if you do a quick Google of, which I just did, MPS ESSER budget, you can find it on the website. Will you please clarify if that is correct?
Yes, that is correct. All of the booklets that we have presented to the board are on our website, as well as our ESSER page for each of the ESSER funding that we receive. So you should see a ESSER 1, 2, and 3 page on our website.
Madam Chair, members of the board, also, if you take a look in the budget, I think what President Herndon is referring to, each school is broken down page by page, and everything that is happening there you will find on that particular page as well. So,
Exactly.
Nick, is there anything you want to share?
Committee Chair, committee members, our Chair Gokugandi, committee members, Nick Sinram, Director of Financial Planning and Budget Services. For the viewing public, the budget book, both online and in the hard copy, contains school snapshots as well as line items. The school snapshots do not include that level of detail. They would display FTEs, teachers, and dollar amounts, but not the specific employees that you mentioned. However, in the line item section, you could locate those positions for each school.
Any follow-up, President Herndon?
No, that's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Any other committee members wish to ask questions about this item? Oh, okay. Seeing none, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 2, action on a request to authorize a pay adjustment for children's health assistants and safety assistants. The recommendation is that the board authorize a 3.5% salary increase for children's health assistants and safety assistants effective July 1st, 2024, that will be in addition to the cost of living adjustment increase for FY25.
Okay, and I just want to pause. Ma'am, if you do have a question or want to speak, I'm willing to, go ahead. You can submit it to the secretary and we can have you come speak right now. So we're going to wait a second. I think we have 2 speaker slips, 1 speaker slip coming up. All right. I'm not sure. Come on up. Thank you so much. Okay, you can go ahead. Actually, just wait 1 second so we can get the timer on. We're just waiting to get our speaker slips, so then we can proceed with the previous item before we move to the next one. And I am inviting DeShonda Bailey to speak. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
DeShonda Bailey.
Thank you.
Bailey.
Go ahead, you can begin your testimony.
It's just absolutely insane how Keith Posley comes unprepared each and every time. It's ridiculous.
Okay, ma'am, you have to have your comments directed to the ESSER detail.
Okay.
Thank
It
you.
is directed towards the ESSER detail.
Okay.
Ms. Madeline just spoke that each school received $100,000 in funding that community and parents allocated where these funds will be spent. When and how did the community and parents decide this? When were the parents included in the allocation of these funds? How did this take place? Be truthful here and stop lying. Again, we're speaking on what's happening every day in our schools, and this is not happening. How are we allocating $100,000 per school in tutoring when there's a teacher shortage district-wide? It's not making sense. Make it make sense. Yes, you gave us 1 year of data, but what about all of the funds that were raised since the pandemic happened? Where are those funds? We're still waiting for those answers. Keith, this district has been failing. Well, let's speak on the report card. It shows that the scores aren't changing, but your pockets are continuing to get fat. It's not making sense. Each year you get an increase while our kids continue to fail. Ma'am,
you have to keep your...
One last question. No, ma'am, let me tell you something. No, ma'am, because if you pull up the organizational structure of MPS
That's not related to this
it
item.
does matter. Excuse me, ma'am.
Not related to this item.
Excuse me.
Turn off the mic.
Because the organizational structure of
Okay.
MPS states that this here
Thank you.
board
We are going to move on to Angela Harris as our next speaker. Ms. Harris, you can make your way to the podium.
Can you pull up the organizational structure?
Thank you
of
for your
MPS?
testimony. I'm
Pull it up.
willing to listen to you if you have testimony about ESSER detail.
It
That's,
is about ESSER,
that is
but I
not
need
about
you to
ESSER
pull it up
detail.
because you're not going to
Okay, we are going to move on to our next speaker, please. We are going to move on to our next speaker. Ms. Harris, please make your way to the podium. Ms. Harris, please make your way to the podium. Thank you so much.
This is what you guys do all the time. Just speak, say what you're gonna do, and it's the shit show. You guys aren't lying. You guys are not allocating these funds to where you're saying the community and parents are.
Go ahead, Ms. Harris. You can please spell your name and state your last name for the testimony.
She ain't wrong. Angela Harris, Harris. This is what happens, you all, when people are frustrated and they feel like their voices aren't being heard. But I really want to speak specifically about the tutoring as somebody who is actively in the school every day in the trenches, showing up in the classroom. A lot of people can't say that. My students, my scholars benefit from the tutoring. I really appreciate it, but there's two things. So if this was supposed to be a part of accelerated academics, right, we're thinking about remediation for students who need assistance with boosting their academic proficiency. Why are they being pulled out during instructional time? Like during key instructional, core instructional time. Always during my reading instruction especially. Why aren't they being pulled out during our intervention time? Another thing that I would like to say is that I was speaking to the tutor at my school today, and she doesn't know if she's going to be back at my school next year. She doesn't even know what school she's going to be at next year. And so if we're talking about continuity of services, we would think that we would want the same tutors to be providing services to the exact same schools that they were at before. Another thing that I would like to bring up is the $100,000 that was allocated to schools was used for things like teachers staying after school to provide tutoring services, for us to be able to offer clubs. And now that we no longer have that $100,000, we can no longer offer the clubs that we offered this year because y'all can't afford to pay us to stay after school. So when we think about how the ESSER money was actually spent, how it was actually allocated, and when we think about it from the perspective of equity, right? Did we really give the students what they needed to be successful, or did we just put a Band-Aid on something for a period of time to make ourselves look good? Y'all have a good night. I'll be back.
All right. Madam Secretary, do we have any additional speakers on that item?
We have no additional speaker slips for item 1.
Okay, we will move to item 2. I think you stated, did you state the intent of item 2? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
I'll call it again.
Go ahead,
Madam
thank
Chair.
you.
Item 2 is action on a request to authorize a pay adjustment for children's health assistance and safety assistance. The recommendation is that the board authorize a 3.5% salary increase for children's health assistance and safety assistance effective July 1st, 2024, that will be in addition to the cost of living adjustment increase for FY '25.
Would the administration please present the item?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, this evening, we're asking your approval of pay adjustment for the child health assistant and safety assistance. To share out on this item, I have Adrian Maddalini, Chief Human Resources Officer, here with me, and following, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Adrian Maddalini, Chief Human Resources Officer. During the FY21 budget cycle, the board completed the Road to 15 initiative, whereby all employee groups were ensured a starting wage of at least $15 per hour. Specifically, food service assistants and children's health assistants had their pay schedules adjusted beyond the standard cost of living adjustment designated for that year to ensure that the starting wage met the $15 per hour threshold. All other steps in the pay schedules for food service assistants and building service helpers were adjusted as well to avoid compression. Boiler attendants, school engineers, and school kitchen managers as well had their schedules adjusted to reduce compression. Other classified employee groups have not received a similar pay adjustment since that time. As such, we are concerned about potential compression issues with other classified groups, and as such, we are recommending a 3.5% pay adjustment for children's health assistants and safety assistants. This would be in addition to the 4.12% increase incorporated already in the proposed FY25 budget. Oh, and I don't know if I misspoke earlier. It was food service assistants and building service helpers that received the bump to get to that $15 an hour threshold in FY21. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, I'm going to take public testimony first. Great. Our first speaker is Adrienne Hicks. And I see a speaker coming down to the podium, and we're just going to wait a second while that happens. All right.
Adrienne Hicks, Hicks. Good evening, everyone. I am the Milwaukee Educational Assistant Association President. All MPS students deserve public schools where they feel safe and supported. An important part of safe schools include services provided by children, health associates, and safety assistants. CHAs and safety support students with disabilities in classrooms. Safeties keep our students safe and our staff safe, and build important relationships with students in all schools who need extra support from adults that they know and they trust. A wage adjustment will go a long ways to assure our students continue to have needs, staff present in every building to provide services our students desire. I urge you to vote yes for this overdue and most modest wage adjustment for CHAs and safeties as an investment for all MPS students. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Shunda Garrett. Shunda Garrett, next speaker. Okay, I don't see anybody. Okay, perfect, thank you. Next, we have Ingrid Walker-Henry.
Good evening. My name is Ingrid Walker-Henry, WALKER-HENRY. president of the MTEA, and I urge you to vote yes on this item. 3 years ago, the MPS board moved to ensure that all employees were making at least $15 an hour. This was a well-deserved wage adjustment for building service helpers and food service assistants, some of the lowest paid workers in Milwaukee Public Schools, who provide services just as vital as any other employee. The raise that passed 3 years ago ensured all of those workers made above at least $15 an hour and made similar adjustments to workers in those job classes earning over $15 an hour to prevent wage compression. Children's health assistants and safety assistants deserve that same wage adjustment. This adjustment will go a long way to ensure that MPS will retain valuable veteran workers and attract new CHAs and safety assistants to our district. So once again, I urge you to vote yes.
Do we have any further public testimony on that item?
Madam Chair, I have no additional speaker slips, and there are no members of the public on the virtual platform for this item.
Okay, I will go to committee members. Would committee members wish to make comments on this item? Director O'Halloran.
I move approval of administration's recommendation that the board authorize a 3.5 salary increase for children's health assistants and safety assistants effective July 1st, 2024.
Okay, do I have a second? Director Jackson?
I second.
Okay, Madam Secretary, who looks a little occupied at the moment, so we will wait for her to tell us what to do next.
Madam Chair, I believe you may have one more speaker slip.
Okay, great, let's take it.
I believe
But we have a
it.
motion on the
Mr.
floor.
Is it Mr. Vince? Yes.
Oh, okay, Mr. Vince, come on up. My apologies.
Vince Tony, Tony's the last name, T-O-N-E-Y. Excuse my, excuse my ignorance. I really need to just understand the safety assistance, meaning my question would be, how does other safety organizations fit into MPS, such as Violence Free Zone, and how is that funded? Is it funded through this ESSER, or how is that funded, and how does that relate to school safety? And I agree with the people that came before. People that's working in these school systems, they do need a raise that are looking out for our kids' safety and well-being.
Thank you. So just to clarify, this is for children's health assistance and safety assistance, so it's both. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that. Yep. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Oh, we'll have administration respond first.
Madam Chair and members of the board, Running Rebels and VFZ is another agency that supports us in schools on a daily basis, and they have their own individual contracts.
Okay. Madam Secretary.
On the motion by Director O'Halloran to approve the administration's recommendations, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Zomber.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 3. Item 3 is consideration of the 2024-25 superintendent's proposed budget with possible action on proposed budgetary amendments. The recommendation is that the board determine how it wishes to proceed relative to the budget amendments.
Thank you. So for this item, I will ask the administration if they have any preliminary comments. Then we will have one round of questions from committee members before proceeding to public comments. So as we did last time, we will move on to considering the amendments, and I will allow for public testimony after each individual amendment. So if you are looking to speak on a particular amendment, please fill out a speaker slip, and we will make sure that your testimony is heard after that amendment. So at this time, I will turn it over to the administration.
Madam Chair and members of the board, this evening we look forward to this discussion around the amendments to the proposed budget submitted to the board for your consideration. The proposed budget supports the whole child through increasing funding to schools to meet the educational needs of students. The budget provides academic support by focusing staff at the schools, providing literacy, professional development, continuing tutoring services stated through ESSER that we started through ESSER funds, and adding dual enrollment and added rigor to the curriculum. The budget also supports student creativity through increased funding for art, music, and physical education, and school library services. And at this time, we're prepared to move into the amendments unless anyone would otherwise do so.
Madam Secretary.
You do have a stack of individuals in the audience that wanted to speak, and it may be on any
Okay.
aspect of the budget.
So I know our students have been waiting so patiently, so I'm going to ask our committee members if I can go to testimony first. Okay, great. With that, I will start with Deidria Veal, and please correct me if I say your name wrong. You got it. Come on up. Oh, hold on 1 second. I don't think your microphone's on. And if you can state your name and spell your last name, that would be great.
Deidria Veal, V-E-A-L.
Go ahead.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Deidria Veal, and I'm a junior in Milwaukee Public Schools and an active member of LIT. We are here today in support of Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. It is time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. This includes college and career readiness programs, healthy and fresh food, culturally competent and well-paid teachers, mental health support system services, and more. To me, safety is clean, well-stocked working bathrooms. We have young women who are growing up, and some of our high school bathrooms do not provide menstrual items or even wipes. Now, throughout my years of going to MPS schools, I'm always hearing teachers say, I don't get paid enough for this, or they don't pay me enough to do that. I feel that staffing is an issue because it's harming the students who sit in MPS's system, and it's all because the people who are teaching us feel as though they can't commit because of how low their pay is. Lastly, I feel that you should use the fund on mental health because our mental health affects our attitudes, especially towards school. Recently, my second year of high school ended. While I was in school, I always heard my friends talking about how they wanted to go home because of how bad our school environment sucked. I think that the school year that just ended drained everyone, including the staff. I used to be an all A+ student, but since entering high school, I just settled for a B. It might not sound like a big difference, but I'm more disappointed in myself than anyone else. I never settled for less, but I feel that I do now because of my school's environment. Everyone in Milwaukee is watching. We urge you all to support Dr. Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, that being adequate, staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jayla Lewis. Jalea Lewis. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm very sorry. I don't like when people say my last name incorrectly, so.
My name is Jalea Lewis, Lewis.
Go ahead.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jalea Lewis. I am a junior in Milwaukee Public Schools and an active LIT member. We are here today in support of Dr. Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service centers for hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. It is time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. To me, safety is mental health support. One of the biggest and most life-threatening issues surrounding us youth is mental health. All issues include depression, anxiety, bipolar disorders, personality disorders, and more. This issue is most important to me because of how it affects us youth in our daily lives. Some of us nowadays struggle with mental health and the silent battles that we face that destroy us inside and eventually out because we don't have the resources we need to be able to deal with it in a healthy manner. Either because we don't feel safe, we don't feel comfortable, or we don't feel heard, especially in school. I don't feel like schools take mental health as seriously as it should be. Our learning environment is supposed to be a safe and uplifting space, but instead we feel silenced. And sometimes we're forced to push past it and move on. Our needs as youth are very important and shouldn't go unnoticed. I feel like it's time we put a stop to it and actually take the needs of one another seriously. As a board member, caring for the mental well-being of students is very important, and it helps to know that we have people rooting for us to win and that we have people that want us to live up to our full potential as youth. There are stressors every day in school, and they're everywhere. So to make this go away, I say we need more healthcare counselors and mental health professionals, therapists even, that can create a safe and welcoming environment for students to take it away. So it doesn't keep building and building and weighing us down. Students, youth, and citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you to support Director Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now.
Oh, no, keep it going. You can turn our microphone. Hold on one second. We're going to turn your microphone back on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, all including adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Next, we have Nia Evans. And after that, we'll have Derek Cronwell-Zumo. After Nia, we'll have Derek.
My name is Nia Evans, EVANS. Hi, I am a junior in Milwaukee Public Schools and an active LIT member of LIT. We are here to urge you to support our budget priorities identified by LIT student members who are current MPS students. We are here today in support of Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service centers' hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. It is time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. This includes college and career readiness programs, healthy and fresh food, culturally competent and well-paid teachers, mental health, supportive services, and more. To me, safety is enough mental health support at schools for all our students when they need it. All Milwaukee Public Schools should have more mental health counselors because mental health plays a big part in students' overall well-being, especially in schools. By having more mental health counselors, schools can provide better support for students facing mental health issues. Counselors can provide student guidance, resources, and a safe space for students to express their feelings and overall seek help. By having mental health counselors, students will focus more in school, academically, and mentally. This issue should matter to you because it's your job as board members to invest in the students and improve Milwaukee Public Schools environments. Students, youth, and citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you all to support Director Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe. Adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Derek Cronwell-Zumo. And then after that, Anya Groggs.
Good evening. My name is Derek Cronwell-Zumo, and I'm a rising senior at MPS. And hold on.
Can you spell your last name for us, please?
Oh, yeah. CRONWELLZUMMO.
You go ahead.
All right. My name is Derek Cromwell-Zumo, and I'm a rising senior at MPS Schools and an active member of LIT. We are here to urge you to support our budget priorities identified by LIT student members who are current MPS students. We're here today in support of Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. It is time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. To me, safety is adequate staffing in college and career centers and proper mental health professionals and accessibility. College career centers and student support programs like BLMA have empowered me. They make me feel supported in school and have that environment of people that care about me and my future after high school, providing me with opportunities that open my mind to endless possibilities that come after high school, whether that be through college tours, business conferences that prepare young people for the workforce. Young people are affected by these programs and are the future. They will be the ones sitting in your guys' seats. Having someone in your corner supporting your dreams makes a world of difference. That HBCU tour that happened last year is an example of one of those things that really opened my mind to what college campuses look like and further experiences I can have and take my career. The school board should care because investing in students now is an investment in the future economy of Milwaukee and Wisconsin. Students are the ones most impacted by the budget decisions that the board makes. Students, youth, and the citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you all to support Dr. Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students.
Thank you. We'll have Anya Groggs and then Jackson Wolf.
Hello, my name is Anaya Griggs, last name
About that.
Griggs. Good evening, members of the committee. My name is Anaya Griggs. I am the program coordinator at LIT and a proud alumni of Milwaukee Public Schools. Thanks to the hard work of these students behind me and local organizations, MPS has the supplemental $252 million. As elected officials, it is your responsibility to ensure that youth voices are prioritized when debating over this funding. We support Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing from the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget is, in order to do this, is not a sustainable solution. While teaching and support staff face continued cuts, there is somehow room for 11 new safety assistant positions. The importance of proper staffing when cultivating a safe learning experience cannot be lost under the guise of more security. We see in the world that more policing does not equal a better environment, especially in regards to Black and brown youth. Instead, we must allocate funding to maintain all college and career centers across the district and improve the ratio of support staff to students. I was an MPS student from 2002 to 2016. In high school, I started each day waiting in a very long line to be searched. I felt like a prisoner under these conditions and would even miss breakfast because of the time it took for each student to be searched. When it came to feeling safe, I did not look to our safety assistants. I avoided them at all costs because with safety, we eventually would be met with detention, suspension, or arrest. Somehow we had the money for safeties and metal detectors, but went without a proper Spanish teacher for an entire year. We also only had one guidance counselor who handled all the college admissions prep, both of which put myself and many of my friends at a disadvantage when we got to UWM because we did not meet language requirements or have knowledge of the college admissions, financial aid, and orientation process. It is my hope that hearing from someone who is 8 years post-MPS will sway you to support this amendment. You should care about this amendment because improving the safety and culture around the MPS student experience is an ongoing battle that cannot be done without the input of the students involved. Students, youth, and citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you to support Director Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution and does not best support the students in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, like adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Jackson Wolf. After that, we'll have Tatiana Wilson.
Good evening. Jackson Wolf, WOLFF. My name is Jackson. I'm a cultural organizer with Leaders Igniting Transformation. I'm here to urge you today to support Director Zombor's budget amendment that prevents cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district, with the understanding that this is a temporary solution that is unsustainable in the long term. I'm here also to implore you to hear what your top priority constituents, these students, need to feel safe and secure in their schools. The students have made it clear that for too long they have experienced the effects of a shallow and limited view of what safety and security is in their schools. An understanding of security that lacks empathy and compassion, one that assumes that as long as they are protected from immediate threats alone, that they are secure. They have made it clear that it is an inadequate understanding. The board must understand now that a truly safe school is a school that is clean, that supports students through access to health and hygiene resources, adequately funded and supported enrichment programs, and an abundance of support faculty such as nurses, social workers, work-based learning specialists, and psychologists. It is a school that offers nutritious breakfast and lunch and supports mental health resources and demands that every need or challenge faced by any student that can be met with an insistence that demonstrates true care. The community has seen what apathy in this matter has done, the ways that it has impacted our students. I, like so many others, know these students to be the bright faces of our future. We see their brilliance and can say with confidence that for this board, there is no issue more pressing, no need more immediate than to create safe schools for them in a way that they imagine. There is nothing more essential, and in doing so, you fulfill your promise to your main constituents of the utmost importance and create a brighter future for Milwaukee. Directors, students, youth, and citizens all across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you to support Director Zambor's amendment with emphasis that it is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you and need you to work with us in reimagining safety in our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, like adequate staffing, mental health support resources, and basic resources for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Tatiana Wilson and then Brianna Gray.
Tatiana Wilson, Tatiana Wilson, WILSON. My name is Tatiana Wilson. I am an 11th grader in the Milwaukee Public School System and an active member of LIT, Leaders Ignited Transformation. We are here today to support Director Zambar's budget amendment to prevent cuts from the college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a suitable solution. It is time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. This includes college and career readiness programs, healthy and fresh food, culturally competent and well-paid teachers, mental health support services, and more. To me, safety is a healthy and fresh school lunches. As an MPS student, I experienced being in a lunchroom 180 days out of the year for an hour. We look forward to this time that we get to socialize and spend time with our peers, but it is often tainted with the thought that we will either be eating food infested with mold or thoroughly uncooked, leaving little to no appeal for consumption. As an MPS student myself, it creates an almost dreadful feeling of walking through the lunch line, waiting to be served disgusting and non-edible food. Most MPS students have been a part of MPS their whole lives, and to be subjected to the food in which no one would choose to eat dims our experience. We deserve better. The better the food we are served, the harder we work. Food is our only source of fuel throughout the day, and it should be treated as such. Thank you.
Brianna Gray and then Jackson Thau.
Brianna Gray, Gray. My name is Brianna Gray, and I am a junior at Milwaukee Public Schools and an active member of LIT. We are here today in support of Director Zombo's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do so is not a sustainable solution. School lunches are supposed to be a priority and a good part of a student's day where we can eat, drink, and also commerce, while also becoming nourished for the rest of the day. This issue matters to me because at my school, Go to My Ear, there has been many issues, including having mold in my classmates' fruit and the food portions being very small to where they are not filling up young adults. We have two options, which are the standard lunch, and if you have an allergy or are vegetarian, then a PB&J with the juice. The cycle repeats itself with either a small portion of food that will likely leave you with a stomachache or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I have had issues with school lunch for years because of the lack of variety and days where I wouldn't eat because the only option was stuff that would make my stomach hurt since I am lactose intolerant. This issue should matter because investing in students now is improving the MPS student experience. I don't want to fear not eating lunch because there might be mold in it and other students don't either. This also hinders students' desire to go to school because of the limited options to getting a well-rounded meal. Students deserve to have nourishing and well-rounded meals, especially since lunch is not until later in the day. Students, youth, and the community across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you to support Director Zombo's amendment with the emphasis that this is not another Band-Aid solution that does not serve students now in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
All right, we're going to have Jackson Thau and then Shamari Harrington.
Jackson Thao, Thao. Good evening, dear school board members. My name is Jackson Thao. I'm a rising junior at Go to My Ear High School and have been in the MPS education system for 14 and a half years and continuing. Following that note, I'm also a member of the student advocacy organization, LIT. I ask that you, the school board directors, would listen to the plea of this fellow MPS student. I humbly ask for your support in Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts in college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. Cutting off funding from CACC hours and staffing will result in students being undersourced and unable to find these incredible opportunities for personal growth and development and post-secondary experiences. I myself have experienced times where the CACC at my school have helped provided me with numerous opportunities and so much help, from internships to programs to camps and so much more. With support to Director Zombor's budget amendment, it will allow MPS to rise up to even greater heights. In the eyes of mine and so many other MPS students, I am sure that cutting CACC hours and staffing across the district and not supporting Director Zombor's budget amendment would truly impact the learners of today and the leaders of tomorrow in a detrimental way. As you listen to the voice of one fellow MPS student, you will find that many others share my same disposition. With hope for today's learners and tomorrow's leaders, I wish for your support in Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from CACC hours and staffing across the district. Thank you so much for your time, and it is an honor to be an MPS student and to be able to pave the path for a future unrestricting for all. Students, youth, and citizens across Milwaukee who are watching, we urge you all to support Director Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. With hope for the best, Jackson Thao.
All right, we'll have Shamari Harrington, and then we will have Zariah Dyer.
Shamari Harrington, Harrington. Hello, school board members. My name is Shamari Harrington, and I am a rising senior in MPS and an active member of LIT. We are here to urge you to support our budget priorities identified by current LIT MPS students. We are here today in support of Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. To me, safety is staffing. Our school, as well as many other schools around the district, are severely understaffed. At school, there has been various subjects on teachers. Having 3 subjects on one teacher with 1 to 2 break hours is extremely challenging on both ends. The teachers are extremely overwhelmed by their schedules and are often unable to provide additional support for their students or feel less inclined to give their students that support. I have teachers that I couldn't really get extra assistance from in times of need due to their lack of time and resources. Students often lose their comfort in staff and how safe they feel voicing their concerns when there's not ample resources available. The issue with staffing is also substitutes. We are often bringing in substitutes that does not have proper training in the subjects they're teaching or supervising. This has actually impacted me recently as a teacher had been gone and we were only left with subs. It was exhausting on students and to get proper assistance most days, which is really hard, especially in a class that we've been previously struggling with. We need to get more funding and qualified people in our staff that are motivated and financially incentivized to help us in the best ways possible. We urge you all to support Director Zomber's amendment with emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that actually makes the community feel safe, adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students.
Okay, after Zariah, we'll have Jada Hughes.
Hi, my name is Zaria Dyer, and I'm an upcoming senior in Milwaukee Public Schools and an active member of LIT. We are here today in support of Director Zombor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from College and Career Service Center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. The MPS community needs to reimagine what safety means. To me, safety is getting better basic resources in mental health care in our schools, like bathroom sanitation and creating a more comfortable and open environment in schools where students feel safe enough to open up about their problems and issues regarding school and their lives in general. These particular issues matter to me because both are common everyday struggles for not only myself, but many of my peers as well. Many days during the school year, I will walk into the school bathroom and see no trash cans. This may seem like an issue that isn't that important, but in terms of cleanliness, it became a very big one. No access to trash cans made it so that trash would honestly be everywhere other than where it needed to be. It was all over the floors, sometimes the toilet seats, and even in the sinks. And depending on the type of trash it was, some made certain stalls or sinks inaccessible. Also, better mental health access is something that the MPS community is in dire need of as well. MPS students throughout the entire district struggle with various mental health issues. But considering the amount of students that are enrolled in the MPS system, there aren't nearly enough counselors to be able to adequately support them in the ways that they need. I know somebody in my school community who really struggles with depression and suicidal thoughts, mainly caused by their struggles with balancing their school and regular life. They tried countless times to set up meetings with different counselors at the schools, but because of all the things that the counseling staff have on their plates, with all of the students that they have to care for, there wasn't really any time for that person to get the help that they needed. This example was just one of many just like it in the MPS community. More funding being given towards these specific issues would make me feel more safe and comfortable at school because I will be in an environment where I feel safer in all aspects of my life because I know I have support for everything that I need. Board members should care about what the MPS student community members want when it comes to the budget funds because investing in students now is an investment in the future economy of Milwaukee and Wisconsin. And students are the ones most impacted by the budget decisions the board makes. Students, youth, and the citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you all to support Director Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Jada Hughes, and then we'll have Dwayne Veal.
Jada Hughes, Hughes. Hello, my name is Jada Hughes, and I'm a recent graduate from MPS and an active member of LIT. We are here today in support of Director Zamor's budget amendment to prevent cuts from the college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. To me, safety is staffing. This year was the first year I spent consistent time in my school's college and career center, but I wish I had a lot sooner. In the center, our counselor, Ms. Danita, spent ample time helping my friends and me prepare for college, whether that be through helping us apply for scholarships or just giving us little pep talks. I am now proud to say that I will be attending my dream college in the fall and first year free because of her help. She reassured me when I kept trying to talk myself out of going and doubted my abilities. I believe this is something every MPS student should experience. They should have access to resources and individuals who will always be in their corner and make sure they are constantly making strides to be successful in their future. High school isn't just something that affects the present, but sets up a student for the rest of their life. Missing out on chances to build their future with the help of experienced individuals can be detrimental. I'm not sure what would have happened if I didn't have the chance to connect with Ms. Danita, but I'm extremely glad I did. And I'm sure many of my friends can say the same. This is why having a center at every school with proper staffing is a necessity. As board members, this should also be a priority that you value because you are up there today for the sole purpose of serving and helping students. If students do not receive help to prepare for their future, then you have failed at your job. Students, youth, and citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you all to support Director Zombor's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe, like adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Wayne Veal, and then Thomas Bastardo.
My name is Dwayne Veal, V-E-A-L, and let's see. Good evening, school board directors. My name is Dwayne Veal, and I am a proud MPS student / alumni and member with LIT. It is time for the MPS community to truly imagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. This includes college and career readiness programs, healthy and fresh culturally competent and well-paid teachers, mental health support services, and more. To me, safety is having mental health support for students at school. Mental health matters to me because I have friends, peers, and family members who are not in the best state of mind. And just knowing that a simple reminder keeps them feeling just even a little bit helps me know that a bigger chance is possible. This makes me feel more supported and safe at school because I know that there are some psychiatrists who actually want to implement strategic mindsets to help the youth, especially high schoolers. But I also know that the support is diminished when one's personal information is being brought to their relatives' attention. This relates to how I felt when I had friends who went through the same issue, but their family issues were the overall problem. Overall, mental health directs towards me the most because I was between the feelings of the people I am close with. Also, I began to know how it feels to make someone happy or to not actually feel like I am motivating those around me. And those check-ins really do matter most, even when I don't have that on my mind at the very moment. And that goes with just like the College and Career Center, because me personally, I've grown strongly with the College and Career Center, especially with my college and career teacher, Mr. Wilson at Riverside. He definitely helped me a lot this year and the past years, even when I wasn't in there for college. And just to go to show that he is the one that helped me actually get a full ride to MSOE, like, it's crazy. And investing in students now is an investment in the future economy of Milwaukee and Wisconsin when it comes to security and mental health. This is because as students and staff, we tend to look at the present more than we look at the future, and that is what pulls us back, sadly. But this is the truth that we live. That is the truth that we live with because it is factual that we never really implement things that will actually impact our environment. It is only minor things or things that are unnecessary, like cutting classes and the implementation of police officers in our schools. Improving MPS school environments like safety and culture are what our main focus should be on. It is better to focus on the wants and needs from our students rather than those who are not facing it right now, which are individual staff, police officers, some school board officials, and most of our dependents have been through it, meaning that they are not aware of everything, but we are in the present, which means we should forefront on the future. Our culture can only be saved if we secure it now and see that what we are relying on is better for our up-and-coming future generations. Why spend money on things that do not show up in our everyday lives, let alone not knowing if it will be apparent in our future? I would like to see money being spent on our school systems, organizations, foundations, staff groups that talk and act upon the same hearings and issues I have listed above. Just to name a few organizations, we have LIT, BLMA, and Yes Club that support our thoughts. Thank you.
Thomas, and then I cannot read your handwriting, but your last name is Cox. Okay, perfect. You're next.
My name is Thomas Bastardo, Bastardo. My name is Thomas Alberto Bastardo, and I am a rising senior in the Milwaukee Public School System and an active member of Leaders Igniting Transformation. We are here to urge you to support the budget priorities identified by us LIT student members who are all MPS students. We are here today in support of Director Zomber's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career center hours, and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. It's time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. To me, safety is having a space where you are mentally and physically protected while also free to be emotionally vulnerable and to just be ourselves. Creating a safe environment for students requires adequate staffing present to fit our needs, such as social workers and nurses, which are positions that have been cut since the last budget cycle, and also the addressing of poor staff behavior or unsafe situations in our schools, which was not the case when a student in my school was physically and emotionally abused by an adult inside of our building, and us students did not find out about this until the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel published an article about the situation. These issues matter to me because of all the talk about third places and third spaces and how important they are specifically for young people to have places outside of our homes and schools to be ourselves, which I am, of course, in support of. But if schools, which are supposed to be our second places, do not adjust for student needs and their wellness and safety, and that's not prioritized, then we can't even begin to think about third spaces. This issue matters to the school board because us students are the ones most impacted by budget decisions that the board makes, especially in regards to the College and Career Center service staff. These folks being in the building truly makes our schools safe and turn them into spaces that students are excited to be a part of and where they can all safely be themselves. College and Career Center staff and organizations such as LIT and BLMA, Black and Latino Male Achievement, serve as bridges between students and teachers as well as students and administration. The CACC helps to truly build a community for students and they are actively there for and to represent students when teachers and admin are not. Students, youth, and citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you all to support Director Zomber's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in the long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe. Adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our student with the last name Cox, and you'll have to tell me your first name. And then Jayana Scott Warner is next.
Hello, my name is Martez Cox.
I would not have gotten that from this.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Martez Cox, and I'm an up-and-coming sophomore.
Hold on one second. Did you spell your last name?
Oh, my fault. COX.
Thank you.
So, yeah. I'm an up-and-coming sophomore in Milwaukee Public Schools, specifically at Golda Meir, and I'm an active member in LIT. We are here to urge you to support our budget priorities identified by LIT student members who are currently MPS students. We are here today in support of Director Zomber's budget amendment to prevent cuts from College and Career Services Center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from the vacancy adjustment portion of the budget is not a sustainable solution. Students and youth in Milwaukee Public Schools need more mental health counselors, professionals, programs, and teachers. This is all a big effort to minimize and hopefully one day eradicate the mental stress that students always come to face. This issue matter because when I was in 8th grade, I had little to no mental support from school, and no one could help me. This made my 8th grade experience terrible and made me develop a terrible outlook on school. This problem was not just me, though. This problem was with friends, and this problem occurred again last year with friends from this year. During this time, I felt disconnected and unmotivated to participate in school activities and school in general. For 9 months, students are expected to be in school more than they are at home, so it is imperative that they have good mental support systems at school. Y'all as board members should care about this because this is improving the MPS school system and, in fact, your jobs, and giving youth and students more support at this second home so that they can still excel in school. Because remember, mental health is invisible. So people for the people, please put more money in the mental health school system. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll have Jayana Scott Warner, and then we'll have the Tanina Abu.
My last name is Scott Warner, S-C-O-T-T-W, okay. S-C-O-T-T-W-A-R-N-E-R, that's my last name. My name is Jayana Scott Warner, and I am an upcoming 11th grader, MPS, and an active LIT member here to urge you to support our budget priorities identified by LIT student members who are current MPS students. We are here today in support of Director Zomber's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to urge you to emphasize that drawing funds from the vacancy adjustment, a portion of the budget, in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. It is time for the MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. This includes college and career readiness programs, healthy and fresh food culturally component, and well-paid teachers, mental health and support services, and more. To me, safety is having more mental health support staff at school. I'm currently in several extracurricular activities, and I'm learning to balance that with homework and other school responsibilities. This can be stressful. Having more mental health resources at school to help learn how to deal with stress would be helpful for me and my classmates. This makes us feel more supported because it shows that staff and admin cares about me and my well-being. As board members, you should care about this because this can give students more enthusiasm to go to school and motivation to do work. With more mental health resources, this not only improves students' attendance, but also their performance in their work. The effort to make kids come to school is little and not enough being done about it. Students, youth, and the citizens across Milwaukee are watching. We urge you all to support Director Zomber's amendment with the emphasis that this is yet another Band-Aid solution that does not best serve students now or in long term. We invite you to work with us to reimagine what's safety for our district by funding things that truly make our community safe. Adequate staffing, mental health support, and basic resources for students. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Tanina Abu and then Zandria Wilkins.
Mina Abu, ABU. Hi, my name is Mina. I'm an 18-year-old graduate from an MPS school and a member of LIT. Today I stand here to talk to you all about something that needs to be urgently addressed, this being reading class. Recently, reading class was removed as a requirement and is now an optional class. I ask that you invest in making it a requirement for all 9th and 10th graders in MPS schools. Reading is one of the most important tasks in daily life, and it will be the decisions will be decisions like these that will crush the future youth in MPS schools. I can see how one could make the argument that reading isn't needed after middle school. However, we need this course in order to make the positive change in the world. This is only a step in the process, and the removal of the course from requirement can be calamitous. Another issue I would like to direct your attention to is Director Zomber's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we as LIT want to make something clear. Just like other budget amendments, this one has its downfall. It takes money from the vacant positions pot of money which is not guaranteed short-term or long-term funding. Because of this, these important programs that directly serve students cannot be funded for the long run. We as citizens of Milwaukee urge you to use your funds to the necessary things in schools. We ask that you stop focusing on what is best for your money, but instead on what is best for the students of all MPS schools. Remember, we need this class for our future generation's prosperity, and it is your priority to care for each and every one of them. As for the amendment, we need to fund these programs for the advancement of these endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have Zandria Wilkins and then Kate Dubinsky.
Zandria Wilkins, Wilkins. Okay, good evening. My name is Zandria. I'm an upcoming sophomore in Milwaukee Public Schools and an active member in Leaders Igniting Transformation, an advocacy organization led by Black and brown youth across the state of Wisconsin. We are here to urge you to support our budget priorities identified by lit student members who are current MPS students. We are here today in support of Director Zombore's budget amendment to prevent cuts from college and career service center hours and staffing across the district. However, we want to emphasize that drawing the funds from a vacancy adjustment portion of the budget in order to do this is not a sustainable solution. This amendment, like many others that are preventing cuts from student support programs, including BLMA, are all relying on a pot of money which is not guaranteed funding for the short term, let alone long term. Meanwhile, this $17 million security budget, which includes 11 additional safety assistants since the last budget cycle, is rock solid and untouchable. It is time for this MPS community to truly reimagine what safety means, what it looks like, and what it feels like. To me, safety is having culturally competent teachers that aren't burnt out. Teachers are leaving classes or quitting in the middle of the day because they're fed up with not having enough resources for their students. Or just leaving because kids are acting up and they don't get paid enough to have to deal with 30 kids screaming at them all day. Teachers teach incorrect information because of outdated textbooks. The amount of times this year alone I've seen students have to correct their teachers because the information is incorrect. It's not our job to teach the teachers, especially when it's about the history of African Americans. I'd like to be able to trust the information that I'm being given. Safety is also having facilities and buildings that work the way we need them to. Having to cancel school because it's too hot or cold outside and there's no AC or heating isn't an issue I expected MPS to be facing. Having to add on days at the end of the year isn't ideal. It feels like we've had more off days than school days. I'll be dealing with these challenges for the next 3 years, so I'm hopeful things can improve by next year. I want my high school experience to be positive without needing outside resources for learning. It's important that teachers have the correct information for their curriculum. As a school board member, your decisions impact us students daily. We don't have many opportunities to voice our concerns, so we rely on you to consider our perspectives. We're in school every day. We understand what's happening on the ground. Your support is appreciated, and I'm optimistic that together we can make positive changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Dubinsky. And then we'll have Anita Garrett.
Hello. I'm going to switch gears here a moment, and I just have to acknowledge the eloquency and voice from our students. Thank you so much for speaking up today. My name is Kate Dubinsky. The last name is D as in Delta, U, B as in Bravo, Inski. I am switching gears here. Greetings to Dr. Posley, Chair Gokul Gandhi, and the members of this committee. I speak to you with great concern about staffing needs next school year at Bayview Montessori, a unique dual campus school with each campus 2 miles apart. The two campuses make staffing a challenge, but we as staff have been managing and our students have been succeeding. This will sadly likely change next year. Although our numbers have stayed steady due to top administrators' decision, our AP will not be centralized, and this results in a detrimental shortage of paras. We will have to drop to 6 general education paras from our 9 at the start of last year when we had fewer classes, while also losing our SST and full-time librarian, which we know are changes that many schools have been going through. That means we'll have 6 paras shared over 17 classrooms. This not only affects our ability to properly offer the Montessori curriculum and attend to students' needs, it is also a huge safety concern. With this cut of 3 paras from last year, we are starting at the barest of bones. Our primary rooms, which are K3 and to K5, have 32 students in the morning and need a para. When a conflict happens or a bathroom accident occurs, we, especially without a CHA, need a para to preserve the ability for the teacher to offer lessons. With our staffing for next year, if a para or a teacher is out, we will have to pull from administration to assist in a class, or leave a teacher alone with 32 littles and no help for 3 hours. I campaigned door to door for this referendum, and we were told that there would be no school cuts besides what was funded by ESSER if the referendum passed. We were also told when we split to 2 campuses that we would have the AP to cover our campus, and the district would provide what we would need to run 2 campuses. We have fought for the AP for years, but because we were just shy of 500 students, the set standard for all schools, including split campuses, the AP comes out of our budget instead of being centralized. We're even told that our AP would have been centralized if the referendum didn't pass, but because it did, we still need to put forth the money for our AP, a necessity for the 2 campuses. And this takes money away from us being able to fund paras to support our classrooms. While we may and hope to hit 500 next year, we can't wait for Third Friday. We have temp paras eager to be hired now. Today alone, parents and staff have...
Your time is up. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Anita Garrett.
Thank you, directors. My name is Anita Garrett. And it's
Oh,
spelled
hold on. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, your microphone
That's
wasn't
okay.
on.
My name is Anita Garrett, and it's spelled A-N-I-T-A, Garrett, G-A-R-R-E-T. Thank you, directors, for letting me speak. As you know, I come here all the time, and I talk about, I'm going off the script, but I always talk about the healthy school lunch, how important breakfast and lunch is to the school and to the kids. But I was reading on that budget, I seen that you said that you were cutting, and I was told in previous school board meetings that you were hiring, you had a chef come in, and that the meals were going to be changed. We were going to, get some changes. I'm thinking that we're moving forward. So in doing that, thinking that I was moving forward, I got more parents involved. And so in doing that, I did surveys. I did surveys with the parents talking about the lunches and the breakfast, and they gave me their opinion on it, that no one was happy or satisfied with. So then, after that didn't work, I talked to y'all before, then I did a petition, okay? And here's the petition. I got over 300 signatures from parents and from our community complaining about MPS. So I'm gonna leave these with y'all so you can see. But as you know, the kids up here, and they did a marvelous job talking about the healthy school lunch and complaining. And you said that you were gonna work with us, with the parents and the students, about these lunches and exchange. You talk about mental health, okay? I could tell you something about mental health. If you don't go to school and you don't have a balanced breakfast and you don't have a balanced lunch, this is affecting the brain, okay? You cannot think, you cannot learn, okay? Because as I told y'all in prior meetings coming here, I was affected with that because I came from a family that didn't have any food, and I depended on that breakfast and that lunch and MPS to feed me so that I can go today. And as I know, it's a lot of other kids out here, parents depend on it. You guys depend on that breakfast and lunch to eat so that you can sit there in the classroom and pay attention and learn something. As you know, our kids are our future. And you told me, guys, before all of y'all sit up there and said that this change was coming. I was the one that went to the Washington, the Nutrition, Health, and Hunger Conference from the President of the United States, and he stated that there was going to be changes in this lunch, that things were going to turn around. But I don't see it, and I don't think they see it either. And I'm so proud of this young group coming to the school board meeting and speaking up. I had parents,
Thank
but I got
you,
a lot
ma'am.
of
Your
parents
time
on
is
the
up.
virtue
Thank
that's ready
you.
to speak on this matter.
Ne-
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Angela Vetternick. After that will be Angela Harris. Hold on one second. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Victor, E-T-E-R-N-I-C-K. I also would like to acknowledge your very hard work. As a teacher, I feel like that's awesome. But I'm also switching gears, and I am reaching out to express my concern. Sorry. Superintendent Posley, Chair Gandhi, and members of the committee. I'm reaching out to express my concern regarding the budget for our school, Baby Montessori. It expanded to a second campus in 2018, and since then, it's had a new set of challenges. There's a lot of them, and we put them in a petition, and we are starting to collect signatures. We have just today 116. But providing travel funds and time for staff to move between campuses, moving staff back and forth to cover absences, even staff meetings and committee meetings is challenging. Buses even going to the wrong campus and deliveries going to the wrong campus. And I think essentially just sharing this budget between the single budget between a single staff and two buildings has been a safety concern. We recently had a student who had to go to Children's Hospital, and the administrator had to go with him. Had we not had this administrator, a teacher, we would have been scrambling, and I can only imagine what that looks like when people are panicked because there's a child who has a safety concern and a medical concern, and we are all trying to make sure that this child is okay. But before the move in 2018, Central Service representatives came and talked to us, sat down several sessions, and ensured us that we would have an additional assistant principal position to help. And although we understood this at the time, the budget did not reflect this that next year. And we continue to struggle with this. Just this past month, we were told our AP position would finally be centralized, and we would be able to keep all of our essential staff for this school year. But then told a week later that that was a mistake, a budgetary mistake, and if we wanted an AP, we would have to pay for it. But this mistake is costing us essential staff. In addition to already losing our SST position and full-time librarian, we petitioned, we were out there, and MPS assured us and the community that if no significant cuts were going to be made with this yes referendum, we went door to door. We talked to neighbors, and
Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Angela Harris.
I'm back. Angela Harris, Harris. I'm here tonight to urge you all to support Equity First and Amendment to Thrive. Tonight, equity is on the line, riding the ship is on the line, creating school communities where students are thriving is on the line. A fresh start with an actual plan for our most vulnerable schools and students is what's needed. The Wisconsin Association of School Boards states educational equity is the intentional allocation of resources, instruction, and opportunities to meet the specific identified needs of students and staff in the local school community. Our district has also adopted Administrative Policy 1.06, Equity in MPS. I fear, though, that from the Superintendent Posley to the members of this board, y'all don't know what the word equity means, let alone the intentional allocation of resources. What is the intent behind this budget? Is it to merely maintain the status quo or to actually improve? It's time we get back to basics, right? Bloom's taxonomy. Let's think about that. We spend a lot of time at the higher part of the pyramid, at the analyzing, evaluating, and creating side, but I wonder if we ever really focused in on the remembering part of that, especially when it comes to equity. As chairwoman, we've been told that cuts are happening as far away from the classroom as possible. But I wonder how that can be true when we continue to find millions of dollars of directors' positions in central office hidden throughout this budget. As a chairwoman of BEC and a member of the Equity Coalition, we asked the district administration as well as the board to support Equity First, an amendment to Thrive. Our work centers students, staff, and community, not ourselves. We want a system that gives every school and student what they need to be successful. Over the last 9 years, we've seen academic and discipline disparities continue to widen for Black students because we refuse to apply an equity lens to any of our processes. I often wonder if the green shirts that packed this auditorium for raises and fighting against charter school boogeyman also packed the board for equity for our schools, will we be seeing different results? But very much like the licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, the world may never know. Just a reminder, my working conditions are my students' learning conditions, and my scholars' conditions and cuts affect them both. Equity does not rely on vacancies. Equity isn't a Band-Aid. Equity is sustainability. It's time that we put equity first and make a commitment today to providing our students environments where they can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jamal Harris. Next, we have Jamal Harris. After that, we'll have Deshonda Bailey.
No raises for Keith Posey. We need a fire immediately. Immediately. You heard me.
I see our speaker making the way to the platform. Thank you. Go ahead.
Jamel Harris, Harris, zip code 5320.
Hold on one second, just 1 second. Go ahead.
Jamel Harris, Harris, zip code 53208. Let me get the hard part out of the way first. Superintendent Posley's time as head of MPS needs to end immediately. We are in the 6th year of his tenure, and some will argue the district is worse off. Disciplinary practices and suspension numbers remain unchanged, as well as proficiency. To be frank, these numbers are in the toilet. This community has supported 2 referendums now under his and you all's watch. Those were approved under the guise of change. Many schools are still waiting. Many questions around these issues have went unanswered. What are the long-term solutions? Posley and his administration have shown they are incapable of creating the level of change necessary to turn this district around. This board is in a unique situation with this second referendum. Make the necessary administrative changes now so our children and ultimately our community has a fighting chance. We have no confidence in Posley as it stands today. To think, here we are, 2 school board presidents removed, and our children are still here begging for fresh food. Still begging for fresh food. He can't do it, and it seems that many of you on the board aren't capable either. Remember, you are all elected, not appointed. It is time for change, and the first step towards that will be removal of Posley and his administration immediately.
Our next speaker is Deshonda Bailey, and our speaker after that will be Dr. Tamika Johnson. Go ahead.
Deshonda Bailey, Bailey. While there are members of the board here who continue to sit inattentive and uninterested, I stand before you urging you to hear out the community and our students who have clearly voiced valid concerns about safety and the functioning of our schools. It's not a surprise that no one feels that Keith Posley is leading by example. He's all talk and no action. Safety does not look like policing or guard watching our students. Safety to me is having adequate, competent teachers and staff who want to be there. I speak to you as a former MPS employee and proud former honors student of MPS who had a love for learning, and that's where this passion comes from. I attended MPS from K4 to 12th grade, elementary, middle school being at Hartford Avenue, and completed my high school years at Washington High School. MPS built me and molded me to be a scholar. I had a love for school. As I reflect on my journey of MPS, early 1990 through the 2000s, I can't think of a time when a security or safety was present. They just weren't needed. The policing in our schools wasn't there. Our schools provided hot meals cooked fresh daily, no pre-packed, preheated, let's warm up and serve. Our schools had art, music, dance, instruments, and it also had school counselors and mental health. It met the mental health needs of our students. It's just baffling to me to not be able to understand where the money is going. The misappropriation of funds has to stop. Keith, I'm asking you to be truthful and transparent. As an employee, you had me arrested after I voiced concerns with our MPS special
right.
education students.
Please don't
It makes
address,
no
you can
ex-
address the chair. You can address the chair.
Excuse me.
Please don't address anyone else on this
You're
board.
cutting
You
off my
address the
time.
chair. Please address the chair with your comments. Thank you. Go ahead.
Board, I asked and I'm demanding for transparency. The teachers that we have who voice the concerns, they're usually then attacked and harassed after. And that's not fair. Same with our board member who stood here and
All right, your
decided
time
to
is up.
resign
Thank you.
because of your
Our next speaker is Dr. Tamika Johnson. Our next speaker is Dr. Tamika Johnson. We're asking for her to come to the stage. Your time is up. Thank you. Your time is up. Dr. Johnson, please approach the podium. It's your turn to speak.
Our schools are not being reconstructed.
Thank you for your time. Dr. Johnson is next, and then last but not least, we'll have Mr. Tony coming back to the podium. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. You can come to the podium. Dr. Johnson, you can come to the podium. Come on, you can come on up.
Director, how long is this
Your time is up. Thank you so much for your testimony.
How long is this gonna go on, this push along? You can't push the issues along, ma'am. I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm fine. You can't push the issues along because the board answers to its residents. You
Okay,
cannot
we will
go
take a
on.
quick recess.
Please.
Go ahead.
That's what they need to understand. This board
Oh, sure.
You run this, not you all. So I don't care how many times you
Go
turn
ahead.
on your mic, you need to answer us. And cutting off the mic.
Okay, go ahead. Please state your first name and spell your last name. Hold on one second. We'll turn your mic on. Okay,
Take that long.
go ahead.
I'd like to just thank the students for coming forth and expressing your concern. I was not going to even read this off because I'm working on something, but because you guys did, I'm going to read the conclusion of what I wrote. It says, in conclusion, Milwaukee Public Schools highlight persistent racial disparities in education. And I'm saying this just so you guys can keep this in mind when you think about the budget. Milwaukee Public Schools highlight persistent racial disparities in education, lack of equity in funding and resources, disproportionate rate of suspension between black and white students, nationally having the largest achievement gap between black and white students, and the impact of these issues on the learning environment for minority students, from the deplorable lunches, unkept classrooms environments, to lack of equitable black representation in classrooms. The Milwaukee Public Schools continue to fail black students on a national level. The broader issue of unequal access to educational resources and funding disparities are evident. If allowed to continue to operate as such, the prison to pipeline in Milwaukee Public Schools will continue to widen, and students will continue to drop out and become adults who can't read or write. At this rate, the community and families will continue to deteriorate. The cruel, the inhumane, and unjust treatment of black students that have been allowed at the Milwaukee Public Schools is a mockery at justice and a treacherous act of disdain to those who fought and for those who continue to fight tirelessly for equity in education for black students in this country. Wisconsin has been listed as the worst place to raise a black family because of segregation, systemic racism, and the lack of economical equity. Milwaukee has the most blacks in the state, which is 37%. However, over 31% of them are living in poverty. And Milwaukee Public Schools are adding to those despicable numbers and conditions. This educational, systemic, and societal genocide can no longer be allowed. Black students and black families deserve better from the Milwaukee Public Schools, so I'm asking you guys to please keep in mind what the young children are saying, because they do have advocates who are fed up with the conditions of Milwaukee Public Schools. I am a Milwaukee Public Schools alumni. I went to South 78th Street School, Roosevelt Middle School, and I graduated in 1996 at James Madison under the leadership of Willie Jew. So I am despicable. I am just in awe of how Milwaukee Public Schools look now. And so I'm asking us to work with the community.
Okay, thank you so much. Our last testimony is Vince Toney. Vince Toney. Okay. I don't see Mr. Toney. Oh, here you are. Great.
Madam Chair.
And then we have some virtual speakers?
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
yep, absolutely. Come on down. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Vince Toney.
Uh-oh.
I think,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Last name is Toney. I just had some more questions about the system, particularly I dropped out of North Division and joined the Navy. I've since come back. I've got a master's degree in social work. I've worked 8 years for Child Support Services. I worked for Center for Veterans Issues. I worked for Milwaukee Mental Health Association. And I can't understand why I can't volunteer in the school. When I heard that North Division, less than 20% of the students can read at grade level, I immediately went up to that school, but I've been blocked from going to that school. Here's my questions to the board and the superintendent. How many students are utilizing GII and BLMA services? Which schools are seeing the most utilization? Are the children enrolled in the programs also receiving additional support from community-based organizations? What is the percentage of parents' involvement? Is there data to support the success rates of the programs? Why hasn't MPS partnered with community-based organizations that offer the same or like services to work with students in need of this programming? This could also allow for cuts in spending or reallocate money from those programs to other programs and services where cuts were made. How were teachers who moved from MPS budget-funded positions to grant-funded positions affected based on how the Teachers Association contract is written? How many, that's it. Those are my questions to the board and the superintendent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, we will go to online testimony now.
again, for the virtual speakers, if you could please state your name and spell your last name, and then give your comments. The first speaker on the virtual platform is Beverly Hamilton Williams. Beverly Hamilton Williams.
Beverly, you got me nervous. They're messing up your news feed now.
Hello, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, Beverly Hamilton Williams, HAMILTONWILLIAMS, with Community Together Voices of Milwaukee's Children. We are requesting that the current 24-25 budget is set aside and all proposed budget cuts to MPS staff and programs are paused until there is an external audit presented and reviewed by Milwaukee taxpayers. We are extremely concerned about the qualification of the MPS finance director and her staff, such as business, accounting degrees, and CPA licenses, which they do not have, to efficiently create budgets that address the needs of the largest school district in Wisconsin. The Milwaukee community approved a $252 million tax increase, and MPS is still facing deep budget cuts necessary staff and programs. Regarding the 24-25 budget, we are also concerned about the $1.16 million monthly that has been lost so far because of deficits with a program that MPS administration was warned about in a board meeting on 10/31/2023. These issues should have been addressed before now, and that's with the Head Start program. Many of the positions and programs that administration are proposing to cut also create more inequities within MPS in regards to segregated Northside schools meeting the needs of marginalized students. It is necessary to stop MPS budget cuts with a qualified MPS finance department and have an immediate external audit. We will also present petitions for an audit and investigation of the 16-item complaint that Community Together Voices presented to the board on 5/7/24 that was ignored. With all that was said today, we also recommend a new superintendent and administration and no raises with the next special board meeting you're having after this one. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the virtual platform is Angela Lucas Foley. Angela Lucas Foley.
Hello.
We hear you.
Before I begin, I would like to ask, at what time today were Director Gokul Gandhi's 2 amendments added to the electronic school board database?
Director Zombor's amendment.
Sorry, Director Zombor's amendments?
Secretary Koala.
They were added this morning.
At what time?
Secretary Koala.
It was sometime this morning. I don't recall the exact moment.
Okay.
I would like,
Please continue your testimony.
I would like to encourage this board to offer another public testimony opportunity for the community in order to ensure that all amendments are available for consideration and with consideration. Lucas Foley, Lucasfoley. Good evening, Superintendent Posley, Chair Gokul Gandhi, and directors. I am a proud parent of 2 MPS scholars, a white educator, and a member of RE Milwaukee. As I start tonight's testimony, I want to remind this body, board governance, board directors, and the Office of Accountability and Efficiency that you are at the service of the citizens of Milwaukee. If this district was a food chain, the citizens of Milwaukee would be at the top. I will not quote data regarding our failings as a district, but I will say that the failings of this district need to be placed at the feet of those in power and those elected to power. Board directors, board governance, and the Office of Accountability, it is you who so easily ignore our requests, pleas, and tears of frustration. To be fair, this budget is more than numbers on a page. It is a moral document for the future of our great city. To that end, schools must have control of all funds impacting their individual buildings. Enrollment-based funding hurts small schools more. Cuts to centralized student-facing positions hit small schools harder. In the hundreds of pages of this budget, it is not clear what schools will be most impacted by cuts and which schools have been consistently making do with less, all while the 89 director-level positions with salaries totaling $12 million, or 2% of the entire proposed budget, are scattered with funding throughout this 1,000-page budget. Administrative Policy 1.06, titled Equity in MPS, is a policy designed to make sure every school has what it needs to thrive, not a one-size-fits-all approach or a blanket budget that a failing district throws at the community. A tagline for many of budgets, including this one, is that the classroom is the most important place in the district. If the classroom is really the most important place in the district, please listen carefully. I ask you to consider Equity First, an amendment to Thrive, an amendment from the community, particularly continuing contracts with Equity Pacific Education Group for outside equity audit work, including on-the-ground equity audits, and in particular, making sure that adults have dedicated time to build trust and community together as employees. This includes adopting processes and securing funding for Act 20, best practices, and contracted recommended reading professional development is funded in the contract.
Thank you. Your time is up. Okay. Secretary Koala, do we have any more public testimony?
Yes.
Okay.
The next speaker on the virtual platform is Anna Lampkins.
Director, are you tired? You got somewhere else you'd rather?
Anna Lampkins.
Yes, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, hi, I'm Anna Lampkins. I am an MPS paraprofessional. I just would like to say I'm really disturbed about this budget because it doesn't seem to support academics enough to legitimize asking for a second referendum after the 2020 referendum was passed, which I supported at that time. I abstained from voting on that one item. I voted neither yes nor no, because if you're cutting staff positions and retransferring people and not putting things in place, and we have students 2, 3, 4 grades behind, and there's no resources to help them if they don't qualify for special ed services, I just don't see legitimizing what property owners and renters are going to be footing the bill for if we have to show gains within the next 4 years. And what's being done is transferring people and doing things with facilities and maintenance on buildings that are not even occupied. So that's my problem with the budget, is it's not doing enough to support academics. You know, literacy coaches are spread thin throughout the district. We want to cut social workers and psychologists and things of that nature. I don't see how that supports academic gains. We used to have tutoring through schools, free to parents in the evening under Superintendent Thornton. That was dismantled. I used to work for Title I computer programs with reading and math software once upon a moon, Title I, but we seem to cut a lot of programs that work, that sustain academics, but we're not doing that under this current budget and what we plan to do with this current budget. So I'm not in support of the budget as it stands. And I'm saying that as an employee of 21 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one final speaker on the virtual platform, and that is Michelle Hilbert. Michelle Hilbert.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Michelle Hilbert, Hilbert, and I'm speaking in support of the equity amendment. I'm a member of RWE, and as already stated, budgets are moral documents. We know our school district has successes. We inherited some major challenges like that health crisis of racism, and there have been some serious missteps. But now is the time to do better and be better for the students and families of all Milwaukee Public Schools. We have the opportunity, the tools, and a past referendum to make it happen. Do we have the commitment of the board and the administration? Administration Policy 106 is titled Equity in MPS, and while it is thorough in scope, we have yet to put the policy into effective action. Specifically, the community would like to build off of the $129,000 set aside for building-based training in anti-racism and anti-bias in the 23-24 budget, see page 72, which the board approved last May. A year later now, we are unaware of the tangible results or follow-through with regards to the intent and use of these funds. The student-created equity evaluation tool, pages 177, 179, as described in the board minutes of May last year, was to be developed and presented with results to the board and community this month. I'm looking forward to that presentation, and I urge you to support that Community Equity First Amendment as described by Black Educators Caucus, MICA, and RWE, the Equity Coalition, to establish a community accountability commission which acknowledge all the ways in which transparency and transformation for the better can be improved within our district. We need equity audits, both internal and external, with the Civic Education Group. We need clear analysis of that 89 director level positions that have been referenced earlier in testimony, prioritizing classroom being the first most important place in the district. Once again, the community passed the MPS referendum asked for by school leaders. We have $1.5 billion budget. We have a moral obligation to do right by our children by putting equity first. Will we?
Secretary Koala, do we have any more public testimony?
We did have one additional speaker who registered to speak, but they are not on the platform. If they join later, I will let you know.
Well, Beck, okay. We will now turn to committee members for questions. Do committee members have questions? Yep, Director O'Halloran.
Thank you. I think at a previous board meeting, there was a response to the Bayview Montessori question, and I was just wondering, and then we did receive during the meeting a petition about, there are several campuses that are split into, and it sounds like there are concerns around more than just Bayview Montessori, but if you could speak to the current status within this budget about Bayview Montessori, and then maybe this could become a larger policy discussion moving forward.
Administration?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I went blank here. Mr. Sanchez is going to follow up on that. Mr. Sanchez.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Miguel Sanchez, Regional Superintendent for the East Region. Yes, indeed. Bayview Montessori has two campuses. Lower campus is on Howard Avenue, and it has 174 students currently, 174, K3, K4, and K5. And then we go to the upper campus, which sits on Dover off Kinnikinnick, and it has about, I'll give you the exact number, 302 students from grades 1 through 8th. Montessori is a very expensive committee or per investment, right? K3s do not bring revenue to the district, and then we have 60 of them. We have K4 bring half the revenue, and we had also 60 of them. So it's a great investment. Now, in order to bring the assistant principal to a board funded, they had to reach 500 threshold. They are currently at 482. Next year, they will be at 512.
Director O'Halloran, any follow-up?
So the anticipation is that next year you will be at 512 for Bayview Montessori?
If the numbers hold up, ma'am, they are at 512 currently enrolled.
Okay. Any follow-up, Director O'Halloran?
No.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Director Simpson.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank the students from LIT for coming this evening to testify. If you can hear me, I'm not sure if you can. And also to encourage you to participate in the Food Justice Task Force that we hold once a month, where we discuss issues relative to the quality of the food and the rights of the workers who work in our kitchens. I will reach out to the leaders of LIT and make sure that you're invited to our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee members wish to make comments? Director O'Halloran, go ahead.
The one other question I was going to say is, do we anticipate the next time that the BLMA and GII updates would be coming? Because I know we've had them come before. One of the speakers was asking about the number of students that have been served by BLMA. I know this is of importance to the students. They have asked us to fund this program. Do we anticipate another update just kind of over the programming and the services provided?
Administration.
Madam Chair and members of the board, that is quarterly reports that we do. However, if the board wants to us to bring that in June, we would be more than happy to do so. And we may have already been scheduled to just want to go to Paulette Chambers to just give us an update.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Paulette Chambers, Chief of Staff. GII, BLMA, restorative practices, and PBIS will be reported out in June, along with our end-of-the-year equity report, at which time we will bring a full report to you.
Great. Secretary Koala, can you make a note of that for the record? Thank you. Any follow-up, Director O'Halloran? Director Simpson?
I'm sorry, I did actually have another question. Regarding the referendum that was just passed, when will we get an update about, types of programs that referendum is helping to fund, staffing needs that it might be meeting? When do we expect to have some type of an update for the listening audience and the voters of Milwaukee?
Administration.
Chair Gokul Gandhi, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The plan is to have a referendum booklet like we did with the last referendum. And we planned on bringing that with the fall adjustments so people could see how the referendum is funding for the school year.
Any follow-up, Director Simpson?
No, thank you very much.
Any other committee members wish to ask questions? Yes, Director Zambor.
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi. I don't know if everyone can hear me, so I'll
you can wait.
Wait.
That's so passive aggressive.
Yes,
Stop that.
Secretary Koala.
That is so
Okay.
passive aggressive.
All right.
Don't do the community like that. That is rude. How y'all not acting
All
tonight
right.
is freaking ridiculous. Y'all would not do that if the NCEA was all up in here.
Somewhere did you wear your green shirt tonight, girl? Did you?
Okay, I'm going to call, are you ready, or
You ain't cooperating.
should I call for a recess?
No cooperation.
Okay, I'm going to call for a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Amendment,
The first amendment is Amendment 5 by Director Zambor on district mentor teachers. This amendment proposes restoring one district mentor teacher using the vacancy adjustment.
great. Director Zambor, as a sponsor of the amendment, do you have any comments? Okay, does administration have any comments?
At this time, I will ask Nick Simron, the Director of Financial Planning and Budget, to provide an overview and key points related to this item. Afterwards, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. Nick?
Chair Gandhi, committee members, Nick Sindram, Director of Financial Planning and Budget Services. As you know, the amendment provides for restoring one FTE for mentor teacher at the total cost of $188,000. The administration values the work of the district mentor teachers and the professional development that they provide our new staff. The administration supports restoring the mentor teacher positions for the 2024-25 budget.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Simpson.
I move approval of Amendment 05 by Director Zombor for a district mentor teacher.
Okay, can I have a second, please? No. Director O'Halloran?
I second.
Okay, great. Is there any further discussion? Okay, yes, seeing none, Secretary Qualla, please call the roll.
On the motion by Director Simpson to adopt amendment number 5, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
This question, the district mentor teacher, this is a position that's already currently exists as well, too, correct? With our mentor teachers who've been in the district for 20-plus years? Because I spoke on this at the last meeting.
Administration?
Madam Chair and members of the board, yes.
Director Jackson, any follow-up?
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Aye.
thank you.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment?
The next amendment is Amendment 6 by Director Zombor on work-based learning specialists. The amendment proposes restoring 2 work-based learning specialist FTEs using the vacancy adjustment.
Director Zombor is the sponsor of the amendment. Do you have any comments? Okay, does the administration have any comments?
Nick, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Gokul Gandhi, committee members, Nick Sinram, Director of Financial Planning and Budget Services. The administration values the contributions of the work-based learning specialists. These positions have historically been filled by limited-term employees, and the administration supports adding the 2 work-based learning specialist positions for the FY 24-25 budget.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this amendment? Director O'Halloran?
I move approval of the amendment to restore the work-based learning specialists.
Looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you, President Herndon. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
On the motion by Director O'Halloran to adopt amendment number 6, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Herndon. Aye. Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Zombor.
Aye.
And Chair Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last amendment before the committee and the last item on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. The board may take final action on the proposed FY25 budget at the regular meeting on May 30th, 2024. This meeting is scheduled to begin at 5:30 p.m. here in the Central Services Auditorium. Although this will be a public meeting, as is customary at regular meetings of the board, no public hearing will be given. Before we adjourn this meeting, I would like to thank all of you who either addressed the board tonight or provided us with written comments. The board will continue to accept written comments on the budget. The comments may be sent to Office of Board Governance, Central Services Building, Room 273, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or emailed to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us and faxed to 414-475-8071. I would also like to thank the staff of the Financial Planning and Budget Services for their hard work and many long hours devoted to developing a budget that is before us tonight. Thank you for your participation in this meeting and the entire budget process. As a reminder, a special meeting of the Board of School Directors will begin after a brief recess. There is no further business before the committee, and this meeting is adjourned.